About 2 years ago, I read a book that I would say is probably the most impactful book that I've ever read, excluding the Bible for me personally. Definitely top five, if not number two. And this book was The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. It was foundational for my understanding. It was eye-opening in the beauty that Jordan Peterson, his writing style, his clarity of speech, his word choice was all A plus in my opinion. And obviously, a lot of people make memes about Jordan Peterson for being the voice of Kermit the Frog, of his insistent curiosity and focus on lobsters and the hierarchy of not power, but dominance hierarchy is what he calls it. There's a lot of memes surrounding him, but I think that there are some aspects that are profound reality truths, biblically based, just stated in a different way that maybe people can understand a little bit better. And I think he does really good at that. And today I wanted to talk about some aspects that Jordan Peterson touches on in my own way. And maybe in the future I'll do more videos analyzing his work and understanding it from a biblical worldview, theological understanding, and a biblical basis. But today I want to talk about specifically his understanding, his teachings on aim, plan, goals, and habits. And I think he has some insight into this as a clinical psychologist. Number one, he talks about the idea of aim. Aim is what you orient yourself towards. Aim is another word for goal. Aim is the path forward. Aim is the end of the path or where you would like to be. All of these aspects are pertaining to aim, and Peterson also clarifies insistently, and I think correctly, that the definition of sin, he actually uses it as an archery term, which is where it originally came from my understanding, that sin is to miss the mark, to lack aim. And I think that that is a fascinating understanding of that word that we aren't really taught about anymore. And I think it emphasizes the importance on what we're aiming at. Because if you miss the mark, if you miss aim, then that is to sin. He also states that the positive emotion that we feel is correlated with the pursuit of an aim and movement towards that aim. No goal, no positive emotion. That's a general quote from Jordan Peterson. And basically, what that means is to be aimless is to be lost, confused, nihilistic, without purpose, drowning in false aims, and ultimately empty. But if you have an aim, if you aim upwards, if you try to be better, as he says, be better today than the person you were yesterday, or something to that effect. Use yourself as the person to gauge off of because you can't compare yourself to others, is the moral of that rule. But if you aim upwards, if you try to be better, if you orient yourself towards a greater emotional wholeness and maturity, financial stability, spiritual growth, career development, relational, familial depth, and substance, if you aim to be better, if you try to do good, if you go in the right direction, he metaphorically compares it to Jacob's ladder, the spiral upwards, then it's an act of faith, stating that faith is that which we act in hope that if we try for the best, if we do our best, if we do good, then there will be reward and fulfillment and purpose from that. That is the act of faith. And what he talks about a lot with that is the idea that the neurological studies that he has referenced state that the positive emotion is actually in the pursuit of the aim or the goal. And so it's not only enough to aim, because a lot of people, we're winding down towards the end of 2025, and a lot of people at the beginning of the year in 2026 are going to have their New Year's resolutions. They're going to have their aims, their goals. They're going to try to be better. It's one thing to aim, to have the goal, and to list it out, which in and of itself is something that needs to be done. It's another thing to act or to move towards that goal. It's even more important, the consistency of the pursuit of that aim. And what I mean by that, again, going back to the metaphor of New Year's, is a lot of people will make goals and not act on them. That's the first falling off. The second falling off is a lot of people will make goals, say go to the gym, and they will go a couple times a week for a month or two and then drop off. That's the fall off number two. But the most important thing is to not only set an aim or a goal, not only to pursue that goal, but to pursue that goal with consistency and longevity. That is the positive emotion that matters, and that is how life change happens. It's not enough to have a goal that you don't act on. It's not enough to try but never achieve. You have to pursue the goal, pursue the aim, and to actually follow through to the point of completion. Now, the fascinating thing about this whole conversation around aim and goal from a Christian worldview or a biblical perspective is that the process of sanctification, the faith goal, the faith aim, is one that is never completed. Because if you have a goal to lose 20 pounds and you work on it for 6 months, and after 6 months, bazinga, you lose that 20 pounds. Then the purpose, the positive emotion, the pursuit, it all dies when the aim or the goal dies. Fascinatingly, the faith aim, the faith goal, the sanctification, the pursuit of God never comes to completion outside of death and reacclimation with God in relationship in eternity. But this side of eternity, while we are still mortals, there is no completion. So we always have the positive emotion of pursuing God. I will say, sometimes might not feel it. There are mountains and valleys in faith, as there are with anything in life. But I think that's an interesting dynamic. Lastly, as far as aim goes, I wanted to touch on a second meme or big talking point of Jordan Peterson that I think correlates with this is not only aim, but sacrifice. Peterson says that the spirit of your aim is what answers your prayers. And I think the story that he references most is important for this topic right now, and that is the story of Cain and Abel. Cain sacrifices, Abel sacrifices, but the spirit of their aim, the spirit of their sacrifice was different. Cain gave subpar sacrifices. Cain gave unsatisfactory sacrifices. Abel gave holy. Abel sacrificed the best. Abel sacrificed what was right in God's eyes. And I think that the spirit of your aim, the spirit of your sacrifice, is shown by blessing or curse, by fruits of what you sacrifice or aim at. And so, what does that mean? It means if you're aimed downwards towards iniquity, the fruit of your aim is confusion, is pain, is vengeance, violence, it is a spirit of wandering, it is sinning. To aim down, to sacrifice incorrectly, is death. To aim upwards, to orient yourself towards the better, is life, is freedom, is purpose, plenty, abundance, prosperity, is life. And so, my question to you with this episode is, what is your aim? What are you aiming at? Do you have an aim? Do you have a goal? It could be something menial. It can be something profound. It can be something short-term. It could be something long-term. One step further, what is the spirit of your aim? Are you aiming for the good, or are you aiming towards iniquity? I know from experience I have tried to start aiming upwards. Though I read Jordan Peterson's book and have listened to his podcast for at least 3 years now, I have just now recently started to aim upwards in every aspect. Imperfectly, but I'm trying. I'm aiming. And what is fascinating to me, he makes reference, I think it's Carl Jung, but I don't remember who he references. Jordan Peterson references someone when he says that the idea is that you are responsible for everything that happens in your life, and also you are responsible for everything that happens in everyone else's life, which is a crazy statement. But if you think about it, it's true. The ripple effect of your choices, your aims, your sacrifices in life not only affect your life, they affect those around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, and their families, and their friends, and their coworkers. There's a ripple effect in society, relationally, that if you aim upwards, if you orient yourself well, if you do good, if you show grace and mercy, if you are virtuous, if you help others, if you forgive, help, give charity, if you bless, then that ripple effect impacts the people that touch your life, your family, your friends, peers, fill in the blank. And if you aim downwards, the spirit of your aim, the spirit of your sacrifice is wrong. If you're angry, if you're resentful, bitter, sad, depressed, suicidal, your lack, your misaim, your sin not only affects you, it affects everyone around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers. What would it look like for you to aim up? What would it look like for you to practice virtues, to practice spiritual fruits, fruits of the Spirit? What would it look like for you to pray, to give, to help? What would it look like for you to love, to show grace, mercy? Are you currently aiming down? Are you currently harboring offense? Are you currently harboring resentment and anger? I hope that you find this engaging. I hope that you choose to aim upwards.